The 60th anniversary of the James Bond film series is the third such big date milestone that I have experienced since becoming a Bond fan. I still have very fond memories of the 40th and 50th anniversaries and all that they brought into the fandom fold, from exhibits to books to products to documentaries to full-on video games and films. I mean, the 40th anniversary had Dine of the Day and Nightfire, while the 50th anniversary had Skyfall and 007 Legends, and I forever think of these things in the contexts of the anniversary celebration. I mean, Bond films often come out towards the end of their respective release years these days, and I think that an anniversary can be a brilliant hype train that climaxes with the new film as the ultimate headline act at the end of the year's festivities. And then we have the 60th.
What's the matter with you?
Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. It is December 2022 and we are at the end of James Bond's Diamond anniversary. As the song goes, diamonds are forever, so was that true in this case? So I want to start this off by saying that I definitely don't want this video to come across as a disgruntled fan complaining about not being catered to every single day of a year, because I have an awful lot of positive things to say about this anniversary year, but there are also just a few things I need to get off my chest, so bear with me for just a few minutes. Okay, well, to start off on my two main disappointments, look, I didn't have high expectations for this year, but if there were a couple of things that I would have told you would have been dead certs back in January, things that they just had to release, things that made complete and utter sense to release in 2022, I would have said, we would of course have had a re-release of the N64 GoldenEye and a 4K disc complete set of all the James Bond films. I mean, how could they not? The 60th anniversary of the film series, the 25th anniversary of that game, and there's no new film or game coming out this year, so why not cash in on stuff that already exists by updating them to new formats? I'm genuinely quite stunned that neither of these things came to fruition in this year. Like, it made absolute complete sense to do them, and they didn't. I would have thought, just from a money standpoint alone, like, is there something wrong with my money? Is it not good enough for you, Eon? I guess, though, after months of speculation, we did indeed get confirmation that GoldenEye would indeed be coming out for the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox at some time in the future. It was a great announcement that they did. They did it in a Nintendo Direct, and it just goes to show the importance of this game that it had its own little dedicated announcement in the Direct presentation after a montage of other N64 games coming to the platform. GoldenEye really did have the spotlight shined on it in that moment, and that was really cool. I don't have an Xbox, so the Nintendo Switch is where I'm going to be playing this remastered version of GoldenEye, and I absolutely can't wait. I'm super stoked. It's going to have an online multiplayer, and that's very exciting, but I am nonetheless still slightly disappointed that the game seems like it's going to be bundled in with the Nintendo Switch Online subscription. So it's part of a subscription service that you have to sign up to get access to a variety of N64 games, and GoldenEye is going to be a part of that, and I would have just loved this thing to get either a solo digital, or Holy Grail would have been a solo physical release. I would just love to have had a near future-proof version of this game on my shelf. The downside to these kind of subscription service things is that obviously the game could be pulled at any moment if they just decide, you know what, we don't want to have this on our service anymore. They can just pull it and then it's gone, and what can you do about it? But whatever, I'm sure that I will still spend many hours on GoldenEye on the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure I'll have an absolute blast with the multiplayer. I'm really glad it's coming, and seeing the announcement was honestly one of the Bond highlights of my year. I'm so stoked for that game getting a new lease of life. Unfortunately, the same grains of positivity are non-existent when it comes to the thing that I was most excited about coming out this year, and I still can't believe that they missed the opportunity to release a full 4K box set of the films in this anniversary year. It has been 10 or more years since the Bond movies had a physical home media format refresh, and my Bond 50 Blu-ray set is a daily reminder of that. Sure, the Craig films have all been released on 4K disc, but I'm dying to have some of those classic Bond movies on my shelf in 4K with HDR. It's probably the pinnacle for how good these films are ever going to look on a living room screen, and how could they pass up the chance to release a Bond Bond 60 set? Well, quite easily, apparently, and yes, I am aware that the films are available on some digital formats in 4K, but it's never quite as good quality as an actual physical disc, and hey, I just love physical media. A part of it is just having the thing on my shelf, knowing I can access it whenever I want. I don't need to have an internet connection. I don't need to worry about a company suddenly changing its rules or whatnot. Good luck streaming a Bond film when the apocalypse happens. I'll be totally fine with my 4K player and generator, thank you very much. But yes, it's still somewhat baffling to me that they didn't at least sneak out a handful of them in 4K during this year. I mean, just do your big ones, do your Goldfingers and your Spy Who Loved Me's and your GoldenEyes, but nothing? When the series moved on to Blu-ray, they did just that. They released them in waves, and I was kind of expecting that same thing to happen here if it wasn't going to be a complete 4K box set. And I don't know, I mean, maybe they need to do more work to the films before they're ready for a 4K disc release, or maybe now that Warner Brothers owns the rights to releasing the Bond films on physical media, maybe Amazon just don't want a competitor to be potentially profiting from these things. I mean, I don't know, but I would have thought that there would be money for everyone in this, so why not? So instead, us home media fans were treated to an assortment of new Steelbooks for the Blu-rays. Now, these things puzzle me to no end. Let me explain. This is seemingly a continuation of a set that started back in 2015 to tie into the release of Spectre, with artwork based on the film's respective main title sequences, mostly the works of Daniel Kleinman and Maurice Binder, and back then the theme was, well, all of the films featuring Spectre in some capacity, as well as the Craig movies. I passed on these at the time despite really loving some of the designs, but I do try my best not to double dip on Bond home media formats. Try being the key word there. I'm not entirely sure what the reasoning was to resurrect that particular theme of Steelbook 7 years later. Like, did they just have the designs knocking around and felt obliged to release something, so they thought they'd just spaff them out for the hell of it? It would have made more sense to me if they were at least completing a set, like have every film in the series available in this format. But Live and Let Die and Die Another Day are, for some reason, completely absent. Goldfinger and GoldenEye already had Steelbooks released, and I guess that Goldfinger's is somewhat in that same style, but GoldenEye's from a few years ago is just based on the poster art, and Spectre and No Time to Die have Steelbooks in a completely different style, so if you were to have a complete set, it would be messy at best. As I say, really love the looks of these things, and it was cool that Dr. No got a special set with some extra goodies thrown in, but it's kind of disappointing that this is just repackaging the same old Blu-rays that have been available for a decade or more now. I mean, the packaging is nice and glitzy, but it just feels like both a cynical cash-in as well as a stock clear out of surplus Blu-ray discs. So, how many have I bought so far? 6. Bond novel fans had it a bit better this year, though, with the releases of Anthony Horowitz's With a Mind to Kill and Kim Sherwood's Double or Nothing. I'd love to give you my own opinions of each of these books, but I have made it something of a mission to experience Bond's literary adventures in chronological order, and I'm still in the depths of the John Gardner books of the 80s and early 90s. Maybe by the 70th anniversary, I'll have read the Horowitz and Sherwood stories. That's if I haven't been driven insane by some of the more bizarre Gardner plot developments. Who'd have thought James Bond would have so many thoughts about Disneyland? The sartorial side of the Bond brand seemed to be strong this year too, with plenty of releases from some of the usual outlets, and the official site released a bunch of products too, like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and a fun snow globe. The movies and games are where my headspace is constantly at, but I was very happy to see fans of other areas of the Bond fandom being catered to with products and new releases. I think if I'm going to remember the 60th anniversary of Bond for one thing, then it's music, which did seem to be the prominent theme of the celebrations, with both the Sound of 007 concert and documentary being the big showcase pieces of the festivities. And there was also the Bond 25 release, of course, which was the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra performing a variety of Bond title themes, which was a really cool release. I like that they chose this focus. I mean, we of course already had a pretty definitive series documentary with Everything or Nothing, which released in 2012, and given that we've only had 2 new films in the series since then, I don't think they could have done much to add to that. I'll always associate associate the 40th anniversary with the Bond Girls Are Forever documentary, the 50th with Everything or Nothing, and now the 60th will forever have the sound of 007 attached to it. Well, that and the little fact that every single James Bond film was re-released in cinemas here in the UK, which is just such a monumental bit of brilliance that I'm gonna be forever associating that with this anniversary too. From Dr. No all the way to No Time to Die, you could go to your local cinema and check out a Bond film on the big screen weekly, and that's just amazing. Obviously, this was a UK specific thing, and I know that there were some screenings in other countries. I think Ireland had a bunch of them too in particular, and there are also several special events and screenings and talks at the BFI in London. Michael G. Wilson was there, as well, the cast and crew. They screened several of the films, and while I wasn't able to attend myself, I know people who did and had a terrific time. Meanwhile, I was on a bit of a California adventure of a holiday, and I found myself in LA for a couple of days, and I obviously couldn't help but visit the Bond in Motion exhibit at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Now, Bond in Motion has been going in several guises for many years. I went to the one based in London several times, and it's always a blast seeing these props and vehicles. The venue was incredible, but I must say it did feel slightly odd not having a specifically 60th celebratory exhibit. I still have fond memories of attending the 40th anniversary exhibit at the Bradford Media Museum as a kid, and seeing Oddjob's hat and Jaws' teeth from the films was super cool, and the 50th had the Designing Bond exhibit at the Barbican in London, and that was awesome. And yeah, I guess along with the lack of a new game or a new box set, I was equally surprised at the lack of a new dedicated exhibit to the series. As well as music and the cinema releases, I think I'll mostly remember this year as being the year of the Eon victory lap. There were plenty of unfounded rumours and whispers at the start of 2022 that the producers would be announcing the new Bond and the start of a new production by the end of the year, and obviously this did not come to pass. Quite the opposite, in fact. Barbara and Michael have done nothing but tell people that they've done nothing all year.
And how is the search going?
It's not going just yet.
What they have been doing, though, is receiving a variety of accolades, and it's of course disappointing that there has seemingly been no public movement on the future of the film series. It is nonetheless cool that we did have a swathe of Bond stuff happening this year, especially considering what a drought we had during the height of the pandemic, which I guess is ultimately what I'll be taking away as my overriding feeling regarding this anniversary year overall. While I didn't get the things that I wanted most, it has been nonetheless very cool to see so much happening about the franchise throughout the year. It has undeniably been UK-centric, particularly with the events and the screenings, which is a shame for fans around the globe, but for those of you who do have access to these things, like me, I mean, I live in London and it's been kind of incredible. And I do think that the screenings of the films throughout the year has been a really, really special thing. I mean, how often can you say that you had the chance to see Diamonds Are Forever on the big screen? And I mean, I saw License to Kill at my local cinema, and it was something that I don't think I'll ever forget, and the new appreciation that that experience gave me for that film. These movies were made for the big screen, and it's something of a rare joy to actually see them in that format with audiences. Just something really, really cool. The Albert Hall concert was also something truly special to experience, and The Sound of 007 is another fine documentary to add to the series roster. So personally speaking, while it's impossible for this anniversary year to match the dizzying heights of the 40th and 50th celebrations, it has nonetheless been something of a blast, and I hope you found your moments to celebrate and enjoy this fabulous series in 2022 too. Please do let me know your own thoughts on this anniversary year in the comments section below. Let me know your highlights and lowlights. Also below you can click the subscribe button and the Mrs. Bell notification button to stay super up to date on future video uploads that I will be making on this channel. There's also links to a variety of my social medias below. And with all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.